Hello, you're watching India Today Global with me, Ishita Mitra. It's Saturday morning in the Indian capital, and at this hour, we bring you the top story from around the globe. Now, today, our big story comes from the US, where after a dramatic late night vote, Pete Hegseth has been confirmed as the US Defense Secretary. Now, a very crucial appointment given how the tense situation is with regards to security around the globe. You have Russia-Ukraine war, you have volatile West Asia, and you also have simmering tensions in the Indo-Pacific. Now, in terms of India, this position is equivalent to the position of Defense Minister, which is currently held by Rajnath Singh. So basically, Pete Hegseth will be a counterpart to Rajnath Singh in New Delhi. Now, this appointment of Hegseth as the Defense Secretary reflects two things particularly. First of all, Donald Trump's grip on the party. And secondly, it also shows at the same time the divisions which have been widening within the Republicans. Why do I say so? Well, because this decision comes after significant debate and scrutiny surrounding his qualifications and past behavior. And this included some serious allegations of heavy drinking, sexual abuse, sexual assault, and mistreatment of women. And therefore, the confirmation of Pete Hegseth, a former Fox News host and Army National Guard, wasn't really an easy one. But despite all the controversies surrounding his past, the way he's approached women, the Republican-led Senate pushed forward with confirming him, also emphasizing on his military background and promising of a stronger warrior culture at the Pentagon. Now you see, this is in line with all the other appointments that have been made by Donald Trump, and it certainly marks a very critical moment as to how Donald Trump has been filling out his national security team with individuals who align with his tough stance on various issues. So let's break it down for you viewers who Pete Hegseth is, how controversial the appointment is, where does he stand on policy issues, and specifically what is his stance on India. Beginning with, now born in 1980 in Minnesota, Hegseth served multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, where he earned recognition for his leadership in combat. Now his military service and experiences is basically what led him to a career in media, and especially with Fox News, where he's been hosting Fox and Friends Weekend and frequently also offering his commentary on issues related to defense and foreign policy. Now, much like other people in Trump's cabinet, Hegseth is known for his staunch conservative views, including his emphasis on military readiness of the US Army, patriotism, and a firm stance against what he sees as distractions within the Department of Defense. We've seen that ever since Donald Trump took over, or even before that during his campaign trail, they've been talking a lot about, this woke virus which has gripped US. They've been talking about how extra the expenditure has been, that how so many departments are focusing so much on political correctness and we need to remove all of that. Well, Pete Hegseth is somebody who aligns with Trump on all of those issues. He has been a vocal critic of political correctness and what he perceives, as an overemphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion within the US military, something DEI programs. We have seen that, Trump had signed an executive order before as well, disbanding all of these programs. Now, Pete Hegseth's confirmation has been one of the most contentious in cabinet votes in the recent history of the US. Now, why do I say so? Well, because you see, unlike most nominees for such a high-profile role, Hegseth faced a lot of serious questions. These questions were regarding his ability to lead the US military, especially given the allegations against him. So what happened was that critics pointed out to the accusations of sexual assault, aggressive behavior towards women, and concerns about his past conduct. Hegseth has denied all of these accusations, of course, including claims of a sexual assault at Republican conference, and of course, the allegation of domestic abuse from his second wife's sister-in-law. Remember, these are allegations made not just by strangers but by his own family members, and still he's denied all of these. But because there were allegations, there were such serious accusations against him, his appointment had become a very contentious moment in the history of US. But despite all of this, these issues continued to dog his nomination. The Senate vote was very close, and therefore Vice President JD Vance had to step in and he cast a tie-breaking vote. And this, remember, it's a rare phenomena in US politics when it comes to cabinet confirmations. So, because usually cabinet confirmations see nominees, passing with broader support. There's hardly a chance where, Vice President has to step in and, go for a tie-breaking vote. But this time he had to, given how the complicated situation had become. Now, but it wasn't without opposition that this came through. Senate Majority Leader defended Hegseth, stating that, his experience in Iraq and Afghanistan would bring a valuable warrior's perspective to Pentagon. And he also criticized what he called Pentagon's focus on woke distractions. As I said before, Trump cabinet has been trying to, work towards killing this woke virus that they believe has gripped American politics. So this leader, who defended Hegseth's nomination, said that Pentagon's focus on woke distractions under previous leadership has something that has led to deterioration of the institution, and now Hegseth's approach would be like a sharp departure from that. But as I said, it wasn't without opposition that this nomination came through. So while a few of Republicans did rally behind Hegseth, defending his combat experience and his vision through which he wants to revitalize the US Army, not all the members of GOP were on board. Some of them, including Susan Collins of Maine, they made headlines when they declared that they would not vote for him. Their opposition, along with pressure from Democrats. See, Democrats have also been, basically have been opposing his nomination, citing that how his past experience and of course his credibility is not something that's suited to lead such an organization. And a few of Republicans, including Susan Collins, highlighted that his nomination for this post, especially with its military backgrounds, is not something that can be taken seriously. They questioned Hegseth's qualifications, and they argued that his behavior, his controversial statements like his past remarks about women in combat has raised serious questions about his ability to lead the organization. There was another one who was very vocal. There's Chris Murphy of Connecticut. He was very vocal in his opposition. He even called Hegseth dangerously and woefully unqualified. But despite the opposition that came in from Democrats and of course a few Republicans, President Trump pushed hard for Hegseth's confirmation, and eventually it came through with a tie-breaking vote from JD Vance. Now, but you see, Trump's role is something that has to be taken into account because he made a lot of personal calls to senators, including late-night push to shore up support for the nominee. He said he went out and even criticized his own party members, including Susan Collins, who voted against Hegseth. And eventually the vote outcome was a very narrow one, with Republicans holding a very slim, 53 to 47 majority in the Senate. So which meant that only one defection and, this would have got Hegseth the job. However, in the end, Republicans did come around. They showed their loyalty to Donald Trump, and with most members falling in line, Hegseth was able to get the confirmation from the party. Now the question is, he's been nominated, he's been confirmed, despite all the controversies and allegations. What's next for him? Well, with Hegseth now getting confirmed, he will lead an organization, Pentagon, which has a nearly 2.1 million service members, 780,000 civilians, and a budget of over $850 billion. So this means that his first task will be to implement the changes that he has promised. Now, what all changes did he promise during his, campaign? Well, he said that he is going to focus on military readiness, He's going to cut what he describes as distractions within the Department of Defense. You see, this is the confirmation comes at a time when Pentagon has been facing growing challenges, and this is especially within the rise of new global threats. You have tech threats. You also have tensions in Indo-Pacific, with China becoming more expansionist, more assertive in its control over South China Sea. You also have volatile West Asia, where Israel and Hamas have just very recently declared a ceasefire. And you of course have Russia-Ukraine war going on. So with such a volatile environment, Pentagon is also facing a lot of challenges. And at this time, all eyes will be on Hegseth to see whether his leadership can actually bring the sweeping reforms he's promised so far, or his confirmation will prove to be a complicated one, since as his start has been now. Now, viewers, when you're talking about Hegseth, and because we're doing this show from New Delhi, it becomes important to understand what his policy stance has been towards New Delhi or India so far. Well, this actually comes in a good news for India, because he has expressed admiration for the country's global influence and its strategic partnership with the US. US-India ties is something that he has hailed, and especially in terms of defense and counter-terrorism, two issues which are very close to India and US. Hegseth has also highlighted that how India's role can be of really importance for US in the Indo-Pacific region, and he's also supported strengthening ties with New Delhi, and he's also emphasized that how the collaboration between the two countries is very important. Why it is important? To address challenges which are posed by China's growing military and economic power. Now, of course, which means that Hegseth views India as a counterbalance to China in Asia, and of course as a rising power in Indo-Pacific, two important regions for both the countries. And his views align with a broader trend in US foreign policy, which is to cultivate closer ties with democratic allies like India, and of course to recognize their potential in counterbalancing the regional threats. Now, we have discussed Hegseth's confirmation, how did it come through, how controversial and complicated it got, how JD Vance had to step in, what his background has been with regards to his service in the US Army, Iraq, Afghanistan, and of course his career in media as well. And now we've also discussed his policy on India and his outlook on global policy and the rising global threats around the world. So now the question is, the confirmation is a signal of power that Trump holds over party and Congress, and a narrow victory also shows that how divided the GOP is. And at this time, of course, there will be more, there are more controversial nominations coming up. You have Kash Patel for FBI director, and you have Tulsi Gabbard for DNI. So this means that, this moment right now with Hegseth's nomination could mark the beginning of a heated battle over Trump's cabinet choices, which of course have been unconventional. Now, what does Hegseth's confirmation mean for the future of US military? Can he overcome the controversies that have followed him so far? Well, time will tell. Thank you so much for watching this with me, Ishita Mitra. Stay tuned to India Today Global, where we simplify geopolitics for you.